Bridges' primary objective is to rebuild America. And in order to rebuild, one of our main tasks is to reconnect cities and other settlements by re-establishing a delivery network. Back before the Death Stranding, the comms and delivery networks were what held society together. The whole thing was automated, AI managed, deliveries carried out by drone. The belief was that taking people out of the equation would revolutionize the entire system, but things didn't quite pan out that way. Instead, we started seeing cases of what would be eventually dubbed drone syndrome. It was too much for some folks to accept, leaving everything to machines and nothing for the common man. And indeed, the oxytocin deficiency and hormonal imbalances we confirmed seemed to back up that assessment. Humanity needed to be part of the process, so laws were put in place and we stepped back into the picture again. And then what happened? All the people put out of work by machines who got caught up again convinced themselves society couldn't survive without them. And that brought on a whole new disorder. Delivery dependence syndrome, they called it. When the Death Stranding tore us apart, the delivery problem spiraled even further. It wasn't helped any by the fact that chiral clouds prevented planes and drones from flying, which meant we had to go back to relying completely on human couriers, whether we liked it or not. Eventually, delivering goods became all some lived for. They were obsessed, addicted, consumed by the desire to deliver. Over time, they turned into the mules we know and love today. War and famine have been inescapable parts of human life since the rise of our species. And while the fall of America hasn't changed this fundamental truth, it's fair to say that these issues aren't pressing concerns. Can you remember the last time you heard a prepper dying of starvation, much less someone in Knot City? No one's fighting over water, or oil, or anything else, which isn't to say that people don't occasionally run out of supplies. But that's almost never because of a real shortage. It's usually a problem with logistics. In fact, it was to address such problems that the president created bridges and developed the chiral network. So yeah, no one's that desperate. Everybody's got enough for themselves, which is what's led to the real problem. It's all too easy for people to become isolated from one another and eventually forget that others even exist. People are free to live for themselves, for the moment, without a care for the future. The president understood this better than anyone, and I know just how much it pained her. So Bridges was trying to rebuild America, and initially there was a lot of progress. AI was getting better, things were advancing. And then it seems like people became, really sad and isolated by their problems. They wanted to be part of the rebuilding, but things kind of split. Some folks came back trying to regain what they once lost, and as they did, their egos seemed to get bigger. They became egocentric, feeling more important because everyone started depending on them. Then the Death Stranding hit, making everything even worse. That's when they became obsessed with delivering. It was like the only thing even keeping them going. And I guess that's how the mules came to be, right? They got that name because they're unique in their obsessive and almost addictive fixation on these packages. It's pretty interesting. Then after the Death Stranding really took a hold, it seems like many people were actually doing too well before things got, universally bad. Like so well that they didn't really have many real issues or anything significant to even strive for. So this made them kind of complacent. It sounds like even when people ran out of stuff, it wasn't usually a real shortage, more of a logistics problem. So maybe people weren't really, desperate in terms of overall resources. In this situation, this underlying complacency and lack of fundamental desperation, it seemed to really enforce their desire to be selfish. It kind of made it easy for them to keep being isolated and just live for themselves without much care for the future. These themes are really interesting, actually, because I think they touch on what a lot of people are dealing with even today. These same issues of isolation and all that. It's striking how much of this game, even back when it was being made, was touching on subjects that became incredibly relevant not long after it was released, especially around COVID times. That period and when many people really understood, what that kind of isolation even meant. And a lot of folks haven't really been able to get out of that mindset, even afterward, because friendships were gone, businesses disappeared, and a lot of things, you used to just be able to do just weren't there anymore. It's just hard to get them back up and running, and maybe it'll take more time for a lot of these things to recover and get back up and running, but a lot happened back then, and it was a little hard on everyone. Anyway, that's just what I think. Let me know in the comments, what your thoughts are too, what you think about this, and stay tuned for the next part, where we will be diving into Chiral Network Parts 1 and 2, the Mules and Local Porters, the Symbiotic Surveillance Society, and Likes Secreting Oxytocin. Stay tuned for that. And yeah, I hope you enjoyed. I'll see you in the next one. And I hope you like this new style where I'm actually talking about things instead of just, reading it. And if you do want to just have me read it, you could just interact with that too, and that's fine. But if you listen to this, that means you want to hear me talk about these, and I'll continue to talk about them in the coming videos. We're going to talk about what we think about it. So, hey, hope you enjoyed. Thank you.